Amidst the prevailing chaos in the financial landscape, the recent turmoil in the banking sector stands as a glaring alarm bell that no one can ignore. The headlines scream of an impending crisis as institutions scramble to manage liquidity amidst spiraling mortgage defaults. The essential belief propagated by the media and endorsed by government authorities is that the banking system is stable, reliable, and resilient, a bastion meant to protect our financial assets. They assure us that measures are in place to safeguard customers, with the Federal Reserve at the helm, ready to intervene should any institution stumble. Yet, beneath this veneer of security lies a disconcerting truth. The system is far from robust. The Federal Reserve speaks of sound economic fundamentals, while simultaneously hinting at the necessity of interest rate hikes, leaving us with the unsettling realization that stability may be a facade. The government asserts that financial conditions are under control, pitching optimism for economic growth. But reality reveals a different scenario, one marked by systemic risk and operational frailty. As rising interest rates begin to choke the lifeblood from both borrowers and lenders, the illusion of liquidity is quickly evaporating. In this precarious context, let us turn our attention to Warren Buffett, the Oracle of Omaha, a beacon of financial prudence amidst the noise. He does not lend his voice to the grand narrative spun by central banks and governments. Instead, he chooses to act. As uncertainty thickens in the air, Buffett's silent signal is succinct and telling. He is accumulating cash at an unprecedented rate. This is not the behavior of a man who trusts the current financial system. It is precisely the opposite. In his traditionally cautious manner, he is positioning himself for opportunities that most fail to see amidst the cacophony of business as usual. He is liquidating substantial positions in fragile sectors, disposing of shares in banks and consumer goods that are increasingly showing signs of strain under rising costs and declining consumer confidence. This reassessment by Buffett is a strong indicator that, behind the curtain of business rhetoric, the realities of the marketplace tell a harsher tale. Increasingly, he is betting on industries that offer tangible value, a stark rebuke of the speculative excess rife within today's capital markets. Buffett sees the growing chasm between the proclamations of the Federal Reserve and real-world dynamics. As he prudently sits on piles of cash waiting for the inevitable correction, he reflects the skepticism that every astute investor should entertain. The homeowners facing foreclosure, the staggering debt loads of individuals, and the silent screams of businesses adapting to a rapidly changing financial environment are the signals that Buffett interprets with unparalleled accuracy. These indicators tell him, and they should tell you, that moments of reckoning are imminent. As cultivated optimism begins to wane and the economic landscape shifts beneath our feet, understanding the depth and implications of this banking crisis has never been more critical. The narrative pushed forward by those in positions of power stands in stark contrast to the reality faced by the average citizen. In the face of systemic fragility, the fundamental lie that all is well can no longer be sustained. The real question is how we prepare for what lies ahead, armed with this knowledge gleaned from the insights of those who witness the market's pulse more intimately. As we navigate this unfathomable chaos together, remember that Warren Buffett's movements, his cash reserves, represent an understanding that while the current storm may catch many off guard, it is the vigilant and the prepared that will ultimately define the next chapter of financial history. Your own navigation begins with acknowledgement of the truths hidden behind the superficial assurances of stability. The implications of this crisis extend far beyond balance sheets. They redefine the very fabric of our financial future. To understand the underlying mechanisms that have led us to this precarious moment in the banking sector, let us employ a brutally simple analogy. Envision a seemingly bustling restaurant. Picture a refined establishment with an enticing menu that boasts an array of delectable dishes, creating a facade of abundance and satisfaction. Diners flock to this restaurant, exchanging their hard-earned cash for promises of gourmet experiences. However, unbeknownst to patrons, the kitchen is devoid of key ingredients. The chef has run out of essential items: fresh produce, quality meats, and staple pantry goods. Instead, they rely on outdated supplies, and the dishes served are mere shadows of what should authentically exist. This restaurant serves as a metaphor for our banking system. The glimmering exterior, underpinned by bold headlines proclaiming economic recovery and stability, masks a staggering truth. The ingredients of sound banking, trust, liquidity, and financial resilience, are either outdated or, worse, non-existent. In the recent upheaval, our institutions are akin to that restaurant, inviting customers to dine without recognizing that the core components of their meals, the loans, mortgages, and savings they depend on, have been compromised. The traditional banking model thrives on the principle of confidence. Depositors expect their money to be safe, believing that banks hold sufficient liquidity to fulfill obligations. However, rising interest rates have turned this model on its head, just as the unavailability of key ingredients stifles a kitchen's capacity to deliver quality food. As banks grapple with escalating costs and reduced consumer spending, liquidity is evaporating. They are left scrambling, navigating a landscape where traditional income streams, such as mortgage repayments, grow increasingly uncertain. Moreover, consider the diners who, upon realizing that the restaurant cannot serve their desired meal, choose to leave. In parallel, we witness depositors withdrawing their funds, increasing pressure on already fragile banks. This mass exodus serves as a confirmation that patrons, like investors and customers alike, sense the inadequacies within this system. The traditional safety net that banks offered, once robust and inviting, is now riddled with holes through which money slips away, akin to unanswered orders stuck in a mismanaged kitchen. The narrative that has been spun by regulatory authorities and media outlets, suggesting that banks are prepared to face challenges, is reminiscent of a restaurant boasting its flawless sanitation certification while secretly neglecting spoiled inventory. The belief in safety is deceiving, as increased defaults on mortgages, a failure to pay for the meals they ordered, creates a debilitating cycle. The restaurant must decide whether to enforce stricter payment terms on bills or utilize subpar alternative ingredients to stay afloat, leading to diminished quality and further disillusionment among diners. It is within this scenario that Warren Buffett emerges as a keen observer of the dining experience. Rather than indulging in the vibrant atmosphere of optimism and reassurance propagated by government rhetoric, he stands at the fringes, surveying the state of the kitchen. His decision to accumulate cash, instead of pouring resources into the troubled sectors of consumer goods and fragile banking entities, reflects an acute understanding that the restaurant's throne is crumbling. He recognizes the truth that, amidst this chaos, further investment without restructuring promises only more failure. The old system, predicated on the assumption of continuous growth, stable inflation, and unwavering consumer confidence, has shattered. The key ingredients of liquidity have run dry, replaced instead with a hodgepodge of half measures and desperate solutions. Meanwhile, the perception of safety, once solidified through regulatory assurances, now stands exposed, a mere illusion. As we delve deeper into the ramifications of this banking situation, it becomes ever clearer that the mechanisms supporting our financial institutions are faltering. The restaurant can no longer serve its patrons what they desire. The time to reassess our expectations and strategies has come. Just as discerning diners would seek quality food elsewhere, astute investors must seek security in a turbulent financial landscape. Understanding this chaotic state is imperative for formulating strategies that align with our new reality. Imagine it is Tuesday morning. The sun rises, casting a warm glow through your window, providing a momentary comfort from the underlying anxiety that has crept into your daily life. You shuffle into your kitchen, your mind racing with the day ahead. Those bills, car payments, mortgage, and credit card statements have been stacking up on the counter, remnants of financial commitments that once felt secure. As you sip your coffee, a sinking feeling washes over you. Perhaps you've tuned into the news while preparing breakfast, listening to officials reassuring the public that all is well within the banking sector. They preach stability, bold statements from individuals who seem blissfully detached from the reality that you face. You recall whispers of rising interest rates, an unsettling reminder that costs are everywhere you turn. The Fed hints at control, but a nagging voice tells you something is amiss. There's a crack in the facade of stability, and you are not immune to its ripple effects. You check your phone, your heart skipping a beat as you see a notification from your bank. You attempt to make a purchase, maybe it's groceries or a simple lunch, but your card is declined. A surge of panic courses through you as you frantically check your account balance. To your disbelief, what should have been available funds has evaporated. You feel a pit form in your stomach as panic rises. You know that in crises, such as these, once reliable institutions can act unpredictably. How did we arrive at this moment? Frantically, you grab your laptop and try to log into your bank's account. The anxiety intensifies as the website spins its loading wheel, the dreaded sign of a potential system failure. Your mind flashes back to the headlines that stated everything was under control. Yet here you are, stuck in limbo. You refresh the screen, anxiety mixing with frustration, but the page remains frozen, a stark reflection of your precarious financial situation. You take a deep breath, feeling the weight of uncertainty bear down on you. If only it was just a minor inconvenience. The reality is there is a tangible threat lurking within your daily existence. Perhaps you're one of many who have faced layoffs or reduced hours at work. The economy's struggles have trickled down into your life, manifesting in lost income and mounting bills. You seek information, yearning for clarity, but each news segment you consume paints an increasingly grim picture, leaving you questioning your very foundation. Your wife expresses concern about making the next mortgage payment, a burden that now appears insurmountable. A familiar ache settles into your chest. The school payments for your children loom large on the horizon. Monthly commitments dance in your mind, haunting your thoughts as you grapple with the growing fear that your family may face the consequences of these financial storms. Will you become just another statistic? A foreclosure in a landscape where families are finding it impossible to keep their homes? The possibility flashes before you like an unsettling nightmare. As you stand before the kitchen table, surrounded by bills, you ponder what would happen if this situation worsens. What if banks start freezing accounts amid increasing defaults? Would you have the ability to provide for your family? In an instant, you're consumed by a torrent of thoughts. Loss of material security, the specter of landlord notices, telephone calls demanding payment that loom just out of sight. The normalcy of life feels as though it's drifting into a shadow, and you are left to grapple with the harsh truth. Your financial world hangs by a thread, exposed to the winds of failure. These haunting questions necessitate reflection. How do you navigate this swirling tide of uncertainty when every assurance from authority figures rings hollow? In the disorienting chaos of your present reality, one name reverberates in the back of your mind: Warren Buffett. The whispers of how he is hoarding cash echo around you, a sharp contrast to the optimists touting stability. Perhaps those who have the privilege of foresight see what the rest of us cannot, the impending shift that will have profound impacts on ordinary lives. As you step away from the table, grappling with your unease, it becomes clear. We live in a time of reckoning, and to ignore the signs would be folly. The stakes are high as we inch toward the precipice of an uncertain future. If you are enjoying topics like this and want to stay informed about the real risks, consider following our channel for insights that matter. A truly prepared individual stands as the gatekeeper to what comes next. As we delve into this precarious moment in our financial systems, it is imperative to reflect upon history, which serves not only as a compass but also as a stark warning. The annals of economic crises reveal a troubling pattern, one that underscores the unsettling truth. This time is not different. Rather, we find ourselves standing on a familiar precipice, peering into the abyss of an impending collapse. The Great Depression of 1929 was a watershed moment that illuminated the vulnerabilities embedded within our financial infrastructure. In the years leading up to the crash, rampant speculation and loose credit created an artificial sense of prosperity. Much like today, consumers were led to believe in a never-ending cycle of growth. The myth of stability was shattered when the stock market plummeted, sending shockwaves through the banking sector. Banks failed at an alarming rate, and households were left destitute. In the wake of such disarray, millions were uprooted from their homes, their mortgages rendered meaningless as lenders grappled with insurmountable losses. The very foundation of trust in the banking system crumbled, and for years, recovery was a distant dream. Fast forward to 1937. After a brief respite that many mistakenly believed signaled the end of economic hardship, the nation faced another dramatic downturn. Government officials, buoyed by optimism and keen to promote a narrative of recovery, prematurely reduced fiscal measures aimed at stabilizing the economy. The result was catastrophic, a second wave of financial turmoil that re-established the fears and crises of a decade prior. Families once again lost their homes, unable to recoup their financial footing. The lesson here is clear. Interventions, however well-intentioned, can often exacerbate the problems they seek to alleviate. The illusion of recovery can be painfully deceiving. The 1970s ushered in a different kind of crisis, stagflation, where rising inflation met stagnant economic growth. Though seemingly distinct from the previous losses, its implications were deeply rooted in mismanaged monetary policy and excessive government spending. The impact on mortgages was profound. Families faced double-digit interest rates that ravaged budgets, rendering homeownership a distant dream for many. The correlation between government action and economic reality was painfully evident, as the promises of stability lay in tatters on the ground. Again, households were left to pick up the pieces amidst the ruins of an inadequately prepared system. The echoes of Cyprus in 2013 further cement the pattern of crisis. During this financial chaos, the government responded to an unsustainable banking system with a controversial bail-in strategy where depositors were forced to absorb the losses. The idea that savings could be subject to confiscation sent shockwaves across the Eurozone and beyond. The specter of bank failures loomed large, illustrating the precarious balancing act that modern economies must maintain. In chasing growth, authorities dismantled the very foundations of trust. People learned firsthand that the notion of accessible funds could vanish overnight, plunging many into uncertainty. No matter the decade or the specificities of the crises, a malevolent spirit seems to govern our economic history. The patterns are all too similar. Hubris leads to miscalculation, which in turn culminates in societal despair. The fundamental principles of risk management and stability are repeatedly overlooked, entrusting crises to emerge from periods of apparent normalcy. We are compelled to ask, must we undergo this cycle of calamity once more, simply to be reminded of an age-old truth? With every economic downturn, we witness the unsettling tendency for individuals and leaders alike to ignore the lessons of history. The hopeful forecasts and reassurances from policymakers defy the gravity of the situations unfolding in front of us. Like the countless individuals who lost their homes in past crises, countless families today are holding on to the comforting myth of resilience that no longer exists. The omnipresent threat of mortgages disappearing in the midst of chaos is eerily reminiscent of earlier times. It is almost as if history mocks our inability to learn from its lessons. As such, the matter at hand is not just academic or rhetorical, it is a clarion call to prepare. The forces behind our current economic turmoil bear an unsettling resemblance to those of previous eras. Ignoring past mistakes ensures a cycle of suffering that could very well repeat itself. The cycle of history, it appears, is resolute, always returning, always reminding us that the notion of "this time is different" is merely an illusion. Let us heed these echoes, for understanding our historical context is paramount in avoiding the pitfalls that history has laid. As we dissect the layers of the current financial predicament, we confront an uncomfortable truth. The crisis we are experiencing is not merely a consequence of inflation, rising interest rates, or consumer sentiment. Rather, a more insidious layer lies beneath the surface, one that involves the physical infrastructure of our banking system and obscure legislative maneuvers designed to provide the appearance of stability without addressing the root causes of vulnerability. Imagine a network of roads. These roads are meant to connect various towns, facilitate commerce, and ensure that the flow of goods and services remains uninterrupted. However, the roads are cracked, poorly maintained, and burdened with choke points that impede the movement of traffic. The banking infrastructure operates similarly. While it presents itself as a robust network designed to support the economy, it is riddled with fractures that threaten to bring the entire system to a standstill. Many may believe that the banks serve as the critical arteries of commerce and finance, but what happens when those arteries are blocked by negligence and outdated protocols? This grim reality is exacerbated by legislative decisions made in backrooms far removed from the average citizen's understanding. Laws meant to protect depositors and stabilize banks have been replaced with a patchwork of regulations that prioritize short-term measures over long-term solutions. The buzzwords we hear, quantitative easing, liquidity measures, stress tests, convey an illusion of strength while masking the precariousness of a system increasingly reliant on government intervention to prop it up. Incredibly, these interventions have now taken the form of central bank digital currencies, CBDCs, and capital controls, strategies that, at a cursory glance, appear to offer a way out of the quagmire. Our leaders promise that these digital currencies will foster efficiency and stability by allowing for instantaneous transactions and enhanced regulatory oversight. Yet, in truth, these measures reflect an alarming shift towards centralized control in an increasingly volatile landscape. They are, in essence, an attempt to exert tighter leash on the financial system, pacifying the public's fears with flashy new technology while failing to address the fundamental issues of trust and liquidity. We must confront the reality. The introduction of CBDCs could further entrench the problems they allegedly aim to resolve. We are trading the illusion of financial democracy, where individuals can make decisions regarding their funds, for a framework where the government can monitor, restrict, or even freeze accounts at an algorithm's whim. In effect, CBDCs could morph into a digital prison, limiting personal autonomy and disallowing financial liberty during times of crisis. Similarly concerning are the potential capital controls governments might introduce. Already, we are seeing early indicators of such measures surfacing in discussions of taxes on withdrawals, increased banking fees, and regulations designed to manage capital flow in unprecedented ways. Rather than cultivating resilience within the banking framework, these controls risk suffocating the very innovation that could naturally pull us through hardships. If individuals feel their ability to move and manage their capital is constrained, distrust grows, leading to broader withdrawal and an inevitable exacerbation of the already tenuous situation. The government's instinct to print money is yet another illusionary safeguard, one that carries the disastrous consequence of devaluing the currency that many rely upon. While creating money might temporarily patch up holes within the economy, it cannot address the more profound structural issues lying dormant. It fails to remedy the crumbling infrastructure that our banking institutions rely upon, nor does it resolve the erosion of consumer confidence that comes with repeated fiscal mismanagement. In navigating this treacherous terrain, we must keep our wits about us. The hidden crisis we face is not merely an ephemeral downturn wrapped in the duress of inflation or unemployment. It is the eroding physical and legislative backbone of our financial system that demands our attention. As leaders paint a picture of progress by implementing flashy technological solutions, we must question whether we are genuinely moving forward or being led into another quagmire. As we turn our gaze towards the future, one indelible lesson emerges from the turmoil. Resilience will arise not from government machinations, but from our own awareness and adaptability. The stipulations of an archaic financial system may loom large, but acknowledging them and preparing for their potential collapse will better equip us to weather the storms to come. The winds of change are indeed upon us, and only those who navigate these troubled waters with foresight will emerge unscathed. In the ever-shifting narrative of the financial world, Warren Buffett stands as an enduring figure, an oracle whose movements in the market are closely scrutinized and meticulously analyzed. His decisions are not merely reactive, they are illuminated by foresight and an understanding of risk that most investors overlook. Those who fail to heed his calculated actions risk being swept away in the currents of uncertainty that often plague the financial landscape. As uncertainty regarding the banking sector mounts, Buffett's strategic moves reveal a stark narrative. Gone are the days of blind optimism and eager investments in fragile sectors. In the current climate, he is selling off substantial positions within the banking sector and consumer goods, a move that underscores his deep skepticism about the stability these industries once held. When he divests from a sector, it is a clarion call that something is fundamentally amiss. This is not speculation. It is a reflexive acknowledgement of risk in an era where faith in traditional institutions is eroding. Buffett recognizes that banks have been issuing promises without the requisite safeguards, and as the storm clouds gather, he is unwilling to stake his reputation on their survival. Buffett's divestiture from these areas is emblematic of a broader theme: fragility. The trust that consumers and investors once placed in banks has been systematically eroded, and consumer goods, it would seem, follow suit. With rising costs squeezing margins and consumer confidence evaporating, businesses in these sectors are facing headwinds that could very well prove insurmountable. By reducing his stake in these fragile entities, Buffett is sending a powerful signal to the market. The facade of stability is cracking, and it is prudent to act before the dam finally bursts. In stark contrast, Buffett is actively accumulating real assets. He is placing his chips on sectors that embody resilience. Energy and railroads are shining examples. These sectors represent tangible value, essential components of the economy that do not waver with the whims of consumer sentiment or fleeting trends. Energy, particularly, is a cornerstone in an era where transition to sustainable sources of power remains a priority. Railroads, on the other hand, are the veins and arteries of commerce, fundamentally critical to transporting goods across vast distances. With these investments, Buffett is positioning himself for survival in a future marked by potential upheaval. The strategic why behind Buffett's actions becomes abundantly clear when we juxtapose survival against speculation. In volatile times, the instinct may often be to gamble on speculative gains. However, Buffett's philosophy runs counter to that intuitive pull. His investments in real assets signify a commitment to stability, an understanding that those who anchor themselves in tangible, productive resources will weather the storm while others flounder. Investing in real assets is akin to building a fortress designed to withstand the rising tides. As more investors skittishly declare their positions in fragile sectors, it is those rooted in the real economy who shall emerge intact in the aftermath of collapse. Furthermore, Buffett's recent foray into short-term T-bills serves as a testament to his commitment to liquidity. While the institutions he once trusted struggle to regain footing, he positions himself to seize opportunities as they arise. By maintaining liquid capital, he stands ready to act when the market presents itself in a state of disarray. It is resilience and preparedness that distinguishes the wise from the reckless in these turbulent times, a lesson civilians must grapple with as they face uncertain financial futures. In sum, Warren Buffett is navigating a proverbial minefield. He is not merely a passive observer, but a strategizer in a world fraught with disruption. His penchant for selling fragility and buying stability speaks volumes. It is a masterclass in understanding that survival will triumph over speculation, especially when the ground beneath us feels increasingly unstable. By charting his path with these principles in mind, he does not simply reflect upon the risks at hand, he exemplifies the act of navigating them. As we examine his portfolio moves, we must recognize the wisdom embodied in his actions. A clarion call for prudence in an era teetering on the brink of crisis, asserting that the road to financial security lies not in the glimmer of quick profits, but in the robustness of time-tested assets. As we navigate the treacherous waters of the current financial landscape, it becomes abundantly clear that we must take proactive steps to safeguard our future amidst the chaos and uncertainty. The time for complacency has long since passed. Now is the moment to adopt actionable strategies that place you in a position of strength, preparing for the imminent repercussions of the banking crisis we face. Here is your survival guide. Concrete actions that will not only bolster your financial defenses but also enhance your resilience in the face of an unforgiving reality. First and foremost, consider enhancing your self-custody capabilities. This means taking control of your financial assets and diversifying beyond traditional bank holdings. It is time to adopt a strategy of purchasing physical precious metals, gold, and silver. Sell off portions of any shaky stocks or securities tied to fragile institutions, and convert those into tangible assets that can serve as a hedge against inflation and systemic collapse. Precious metals have historically held value, providing you with a form of personal security that is independent of the banking system. By holding physical assets in your possession, you are insulated from the risk of bank insolvency or government measures that may threaten your access to digital wealth. Next, prioritize liquidity. In these uncertain times, cash is king. Maintain a cash reserve adequate for at least 6 months of expenses. This safeguard will cushion you from potential layoffs, wage cuts, or disruption in cash flow that can accompany a banking crisis. Begin by auditing your current financial obligations. Reassess your monthly expenses to identify areas where you can reduce expenditures. This may involve cutting unnecessary subscriptions or high-interest debt obligations, ensuring you are free to redirect funds into your cash reserve. By achieving this level of liquidity, you allow yourself the flexibility to act decisively and prudently when opportunities arise, giving you an advantage over the average individual caught off guard by the financial storm. In parallel, scrutinize your debt profile closely. The current environment of rising interest rates complicates debt management, making it imperative that you actively reduce debt burdens wherever possible. Focus on paying off high-interest debts first, particularly credit cards or personal loans that drain your resources monthly. If you find yourself besieged by student loans or mortgages, explore refinancing options or even debt consolidation strategies that may ease the burden. The objective is clear. Bring down your total debt load, giving yourself breathing room as consumer confidence continues to wane. Remember, each dollar saved from interest payments or eliminated debt strengthens your financial foundation. Another critical area to emphasize is the acquisition of real assets, investments that possess intrinsic value beyond mere speculation in stocks or cryptocurrencies. Seek to invest in real estate properties that generate passive income through rental yields, or consider purchasing farmland and agricultural assets that offer resilience in times of food and resource insecurity. These tangible assets can serve the dual purpose of preserving wealth and generating revenue streams when traditional income avenues face peril. As the broader economy teeters, the value of land and property remains best insulated from the shocks that threaten liquid financial assets. Lastly, harness technological tools to remain vigilant regarding your financial health. Utilize budgeting apps that allow for precise tracking of income and expenditures, ensuring that every dollar serves a purpose in your overarching plan for resilience. Establish alerts for your bank accounts to monitor any unusual activity, keeping your finger firmly on the pulse of your financial situation. Accessing real-time data about your net worth and cash flow will empower you to make timely decisions in an unpredictable financial landscape. Remember, the best defense in these uncertain times is knowledge, so leverage every tool at your disposal. In summary, the path forward demands immediate action, a recalibrating of your financial approach in light of the uncertainties we face. Taking control through self-custody, prioritizing liquidity, reducing debt burdens, acquiring real assets, and adopting technological vigilance will create a safeguard against the chaotic forces shaping our economy. Now more than ever, you must prepare yourself for what lies ahead, as true resilience and long-term success depend on proactive and informed decision-making. The sands of time are slipping. Act now, before the tide turns irrevocably. As we stand on the precipice of uncertainty, it becomes increasingly clear that the tumultuous tides of the financial system will eventually correct themselves. The chaotic storms currently raging through the banking landscape serve as a stark reminder that the facade of stability can collapse under the weight of its own contradictions. The illusions of prosperity, perpetuated by authority figures and financial institutions, can only shield us for so long before exposing the underlying fragility inherent to the system. What we are witnessing today is not an anomaly. It is a necessary reckoning, a cleansing of delusions that will ultimately lead us toward a more sustainable framework. In moments of disruption, it is imperative that we reclaim our sense of agency. The narrative that tells us to rely on the government, the central banks, and political leaders to safeguard our futures is one of the most pervasive and dangerous lies. The repercussions of this crisis extend far beyond balance sheets and profit margins. They resonate deeply within the lives of ordinary individuals struggling to navigate an increasingly hostile financial landscape. It bears repeating, no one is coming to save you. The mythical notion that external forces will swoop in to rescue the masses is a comfortable mirage, a soothing balm against the harsh reality of self-reliance. As we reflect on the disheartening trajectory of our financial institutions, we must take responsibility for our own fate. The very actions of Warren Buffett, his strategic exit from fragile sectors, and his accumulation of liquid capital, serve as a clarion call for individual preparedness. Buffett, in his sage-like wisdom, understands that the custodians of our financial well-being are often mired in complacency and ineptitude. His resolve to navigate away from the sinking ships of consumer goods and struggling banks speaks volumes to the necessity of holding ourselves accountable for our financial futures. It is essential to understand that the cyclical nature of economic collapse is not a tale of villainy, but rather a dance with the complexities of human behavior. Optimism and short-sightedness have a perennial grip on society, leading us to ignore warning signs and cling to comforting narratives that ultimately serve our illusions. Yet the truth remains. The system that has insidiously misled us is on the brink of self-correction, and it is often painful. As the landscape shifts, we will be called upon to make difficult choices. We must engage with our circumstances, reflect upon our vulnerabilities, and take action, proactively steeling ourselves against the unpredictable forces that threaten our financial worlds. The decisions we make in these critical moments will define who we are and how well we can weather the impending storms. Arm yourself with knowledge, cultivate a mindset of resilience, and adopt the strategies that foster independence and sustainability. Seek understanding in the underlying mechanics of our economy, rather than succumb to the complacency perpetuated by those in power. The actions you take today will determine your capacity to thrive or merely survive amid upheaval. In closing, remember this fundamental truth. The currents of time are relentless. Though the chaos currently unfolding may seem daunting, it is equally an opportunity for renewal. The financial institutions will falter, the narratives will morph, but those who prepare, mentally, emotionally, and strategically, will emerge on the other side, equipped for the new reality that awaits. Do not overlook the gravity of your situation. Embrace your role as the architect of your own future, unfettered by the hollow assurances of the world around you. It is inevitable that corrective processes will unfold, but in this fragile recovery, the explicit responsibility falls squarely on your shoulders. In the end, it is not the system that defines us. It is how we respond to its failures that ultimately shapes our financial destinies. The sands of time are moving swiftly. Navigate wisely into the tempest that lies ahead.